Welcome back, family, to another live edition of Tuesday's Thought. I am super excited that you decided to take a few minutes out to join tonight for my thought, which is, so you believed a lie. Now what? So to get things started, I want you to take a look at this picture that is located somewhere on your screen. Take a look at the picture, and I want you to take a minute to just make a quick mental note of what you see, right? You should see two different receptacles with some liquid in there. Just take a mental note. If you want, you can drop it in the comment of what you see, okay? We're gonna come back to this in just a second. Tonight, what I really want to talk about is perception. I want to talk about perception in terms of what happens when what you thought you saw or a person that you thought you knew was not actually reality. Okay, so think about a time, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, but think about a time when you we're connected with someone, and whether that's, in a personal relationship, it could be a business relationship, a mentor, whatever, but you got connected with someone who turned out to be exactly the opposite of who you thought they were, okay? They turned out to be somebody completely different than what you perceived them to be. Now, if you've ever been in that situation, I know I got a witness. It is a horrible, horrible, horrible feeling. It's a terrible feeling. You feel like you've been duped, like you've been played. Essentially, you've been deceived, right? Because who you thought that person to be, they were not, in fact, that person. And over time, that manifested. Okay, so your perception was completely off. And that was as a result of most likely some intentional deception. But I also want to talk about a circumstance where you might have thought you knew someone, or the person that you thought you were connected to turns out to not quite be, but not so much as a result of intentional deception, but rather because of some change that's taken place over time. Okay, and this is where I want to go back to that picture for a second. It's so important to recognize that, and as I looked at the photograph, the first time I saw it, it piqued this thought. It caused me to start thinking about this. In fact, as I said, we're talking about perception. The caption under the picture was, in fact, what happens to your perception when the same liquid is placed into two different buckets. Now, if in your mental note, if you jotted something down, or when you took your mental note a second ago, you were really looking at the picture, it's easy to see that, okay, I'm looking at a yellow liquid in a white bucket, and I'm also looking at a green liquid in a blue bucket. In fact, your perception was not being true to you, because the reality is it's the same liquid. The difference came about as a result of the environment. And so it is sometimes you may perceive to have known someone, and may very well have, but something in the environment, something circumstantial. Maybe there's some trauma that they experienced. Life happened to them in such a way. They may have lost a loved one. Perhaps, they were robbed of, tons of money. Whatever it was, some external thing caused them, in essence, to change. And that's what you're now experiencing. You're seeing through them this change from the person A that they used to be to now this person B. And there's an interesting saying which says, in adversity is when a person's true character is revealed. So when life is really pressurizing you and things are getting really hard, who you are and who you demonstrate yourself to be is really a reflection of your true character in those moments. And as I said, so it was in that analogy. The liquid was the same. The person was the same. It's just that life, environment, something happened to change. And now here you are on the other side of that, as I said, whether it was by deception, okay, you'd been lied to, or by this circumstantial changing. Here you are now holding the short end of the stick, right? Asking yourselves all kinds of questions. How could this have happened to me? How could I have been so naive? How could, all the questions that you ask yourself once you feel that sense of deception, that sense of betrayal, because this person is not who you perceive them to be. I want to speak to you and leave you with four quick points. If you find yourself in this situation where you're, essentially, as I said, you're on the short end of the stick because your perception has somehow failed you, there's 4 things that I want you to take away. 4 quick points that I want to help you navigate that situation. Okay? The 4 things are, first of all, stop. The second thing is steep. Steep. We're going to talk about that. The third thing is to stabilize. And the 4th thing is going to be to survive. Okay, so let me just quickly sort of run through them for you. First of all, you want to stop. If you found yourself in this situation, whether by intentional deception or otherwise, stop. Okay, stop the denial. Don't deny it. Don't allow yourself to keep the blinders on, right? Those red flags, all of that, they were real. Just leave the denial to the side and just stop, okay? Stop in the moment. Don't allow yourself to continue to succumb to whatever it is the perpetrator, if I can call it that way, or the person has now inflicted on you, okay? Just stop. The second thing you want to do is you want to steep, okay? And I'm saying this from the perspective of your emotional regulation. When something like this happens, okay, when you've been deceived, when you've been in a situation like this, it can be traumatic, and your emotional response can actually be pretty intense, and that's okay, all right? Feel all the feels. You're allowed to spend some time in your emotions. You're allowed to, go through those phases, right? The grieving, all of that stuff. It's healthy, in fact, to feel that. But I say steep, don't stew in it. So what do I mean by that? I'm a person who loves to drink tea, okay? And if you're ever with me, if let's say I'm going through a drive-through at a Tim Hortons or somewhere where they sell tea, what I'm going to ask the server for is to put the bag in, then the water, then take the bag out. So I say bag in, then out. I don't just steep it just enough just to get some of that flavor into the water. I don't like strong tea. Okay, so I'm just going to put it in, get the flavor in there, and take it out. So it is. Steep. Allow your emotions to steep a little bit. Connect with your emotions. Feel it. Cry if you have to. But don't stew. Okay? Don't turn it into, like when you're cooking a pot of beef stew, or as we say, stew beef, or, soup. You're letting it simmer and cook down, and you don't want to do that when it comes to your emotional regulation. Okay? So feel all the feels that you have to feel. Connect with your emotions, but don't let it resonate. Okay? Don't stay there. Why? Because that's going to lead you to the third thing, which is to stabilize. Once you've had a chance to, feel what you need to feel and connect with your emotions, stabilize, okay? Get yourself into a situation where you can, in essence, try to regain some of that control, okay? And by that, it's about mindset. It's what you're going to tell yourself. So you've been robbed. They may have robbed me X amount of dollars, but hey, I can still work. I can still make that money back. I can get it back some kind of way. Or whatever the situation might be. They might have left me, but here I am. I can rebuild. I can start over again. I might have lost the job, but you know what? I still have the skills and they're transferable. Find a way to regain some of that control in the situation so that you can stabilize. All right? What happened, happened. You've dealt with it in terms of your emotional regulation. Now you're going to stabilize. Okay? And then the 4th thing you want to do is what I'll say is survive and thrive. So accept it. It happened. But when you're in that sort of space, in that mind space, tell yourself there's no such things. I heard somebody say there's no such thing as winning or losing. It's only winning or learning. Okay? So accept it. It happened. Learn from it. Take from it, engage and embrace what it is that is actually designed to perhaps make you stronger in this. You survived it, and now you can thrive through it. Okay? So once again, stop, steep, stabilize, and survive. In these 4 ways, you can look at that question. So I've been lied to. What now? That's what happens now. Thank you so much for tuning in for this really quick thought on this Tuesday evening. As always, it is my prayer for you that the peace of God will be with you. Until next time, God bless you. Stay blessed.